So now we're setting up for the couch stretch. Now, obviously I have my foot on the wall, but you could use a couch at home. The goal here again is we're gonna use PNF stretching or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. We're gonna go ahead and lightly contract the quad and the hip flexors, and we're gonna push into the wall doing that. And then afterwards, we're gonna go into that stretch where we're just basically gonna go ahead and shift our hips forward, right? So I'm shifting forward, I'm not leaning back, and I'm actually driving my hips to obviously in a forward fashion. So I'm gonna go ahead and drive my hips forward after I push into the wall for about 5 to 6 seconds. Now you don't have to go maximal push. You wanna go about 60 to 70%. When we go maximal, we're gonna be doing the pails and rails, and I'll show you in a minute. But we're gonna do this for now. Again, 2 to 3 repetitions through. Again, you also wanna make sure you're passively stretching in that range for about 30 seconds. So we'll go 2 to 3 sets, 30 seconds of stretch, 6 seconds of a contraction. Here we go. So I'm pushing into the wall, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then I'm gonna drive my hips forward, increasing the stretch on the quad and hip flexor. I'll go again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sitting into the stretch, pushing my hips forward, not breaking in the TL junction. I'm locking down my abs here. Again, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit into the stretch and hold for 30 seconds. So again, you're gonna do 2 to 3 reps of that PNF, sit in for 30 seconds, and then do 2 to 3 sets after that on both sides. All right, so now what we're gonna do is called pails and rails, or progressive and regressive angular isometric loading. So now we're gonna use a more intense version of isometrics, a more intense version of PNF. We're gonna activate both sides of the muscle. So we're gonna work the agonist and the antagonist to help increase active and range control and range of motion for true mobility. So with this one, I'm gonna go into a 90-90 position. So external rotation on the front leg, internal rotation on the back leg. And the goal here is to, again, activate abduction, activate adduction, all those muscles that encompass that. And we're gonna gain more range, or we're gonna try to gain more range into external rotation. And then we'll do the same thing for internal rotation. So I'm gonna start off with the front leg in that external rotation, my knee, right? We want a 90-degree angle on both sides here. So ankle to knee and knee to hip. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and get into a passive end range. So I'm gonna get into a range that I feel the stretch in. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead and push down actively into the floor. Now I'm gonna ramp up from 50 to 100% because you don't wanna go full on 100% off the bat. Again, that's gonna be a cause for concern. You may increase injury risk. So we're gonna go ahead 50% to start. Remember, I'm pushing from my heel, right? My heel, my ankle, my shin, my knee, and my hip all into the ground at once. 50%, then we'll ramp up to 60, 70, 80. Once we get to 100%, I'm driving as hard as I can without compensation and maintaining this position here with my spine. As I'm driving into the floor, I'm trying to drive my leg down and try to bust through the floor. So I'm 100% effort for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Automatically after that, I'm gonna go ahead and down regulate that. So I'm gonna go from 100% down to 60, and then I'm gonna do what's called a rails contraction, where I'm gonna drive actively my leg up into abduction, or adduction, I should say. I'm gonna drive that knee up into my chest. I'm gonna use those adductors to drive into my chest here, pulling my knee into my chest as much as I can, and also trying to drive my ankle off the floor. So we just did our pails. Now we're going 80, 70, going into the rails contraction. I'm actually driving into my chest, getting it away from the floor as much as I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna passively sit deeper into the stretch. Now you'll feel that you automatically have more range because, again, you activated those mechanoreceptors. They were able to down-regulate any type of tight tissue because you told the body that your body is strong in that position. It's okay to go further. So I'm back down, I'm going deeper into the stretch, and then you'll do another set. So we'll do 2 sets of pails and rails for the externally rotated leg. Again, you wanna ramp up from 60 50 to 60%, all the way up to 100%. Then you'll back it down to 60%, going up into the rails contraction for about 5 to 10 seconds long. Do that for 2 sets through, and then you switch over to the internally rotated leg. Now with the internally rotated leg, I'm gonna sit this way, I'm gonna face my knee. I'm gonna go ahead, place my hands here for stability, so I'm not moving at all. I'm planting myself down in a passive stretch. So again, I'm gonna take my leg, make sure it's a 90-degree angle from the knee to hip, 90-degree angle from the knee to ankle. Then from there, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna lean as far as I can without rounding or without crunching here. Up tall, same concept. I'm gonna drive my leg into the floor for that pales contraction. So again, going up in percentage, all the way to 100 for 10 seconds. Then I'm gonna back off 80, 70, 60. From there, I'm gonna try to drive up using all of those abductors, those external rotators. I'm gonna drive up as much as I can. 5, 4, 3, 2, and then I'm gonna slowly relax and sit deeper into the stretch. All right, so now what we're gonna do is called an ISO movement prep, and this is going to enhance dynamic movement patterns and allow you to work and floss the joint accordingly based upon the position. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off in a bear sit position. Now, again, I wanna create nice neutral spine, good posture here, and I'm gonna make sure my feet stay the same. A lot of times when guys go through these flow movements, they start to move their feet and change that pressure gradient and change the positioning. We don't want that. We wanna stabilize the body in those end ranges and then work through the joint like a true joint. So I'm gonna lock down the end ranges so I don't allow for compensation to occur. Chest is tall. I'm gonna start off in the bear sit, then I'm gonna go ahead and flow into 90-90, just like we did in the past. All right, so we worked on pales and rails contraction with 90-90. Now we're going ISO MPs in a 90-90 to bear sit position. This is going to allow you to open up your hips and be able to produce force from internal and external rotation. It's gonna be very key when you're talking about movements and kicks with Taekwondo and Muay Thai. Here we go. From here, I'm gonna drive one knee down into the ground, external rotation. This side's gonna come internal rotation. And we're gonna sit into that 90-90 again. From there, I'm gonna go ahead and open into external rotation, drive all the way out as far as I can. Then when I can't get any further, I'm gonna go ahead and start opening up and closing this one down. As I close this one down, I'm able to open this one up more. Drive this knee into the floor in range, and then I start to close this angle down. Boom, squeezing my glute, and I'm also activating the antagonistic muscle. So from there, I'm gonna open. I'm still putting pressure into the floor. I open as far as I can. Again, I'm not trying to move my feet out like this. I'm staying stable. I'm opening up. I close that angle down as I go to flow to the other side. Boom, full into 90-90 again. These ISO MPs you will do 2 sets through. So I'll go one side, then the other, that's 1, then back again. One side, then the other, that's 2. All right, now we'll flow into some other movements to help with dynamic correspondence and also increasing contractibility and overall proprioception throughout space. Let's get into it. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and still flow through the entire movement. We're still doing ISO MP, 90-90 to bear sit now into a swing through lunge. So again, we're still working flow, but the goal here is to start to increase your proprioception, start to increase your coordination, and also work on those muscles that need to be stable and also need to be mobile from a hip joint perspective to allow for those kicks to occur. So we're activating the muscle to allow for range of motion in the joint capsule itself, to allow for those higher movements and high dynamic movements that you're gonna do when you're creating force with your kicks. So again, we'll start off on the bear sit. Right from there, I'm gonna drive down. I'm gonna go close the angle down now. This is after your 2 sets through. You're gonna go ahead and flow into this 90-90 position. From there, I'm gonna bring my heels together, closer to midline. And then from there, I'm gonna drive up and do what's called a shin box get up. So I'm gonna drive through, boom, full hip extension now, right? Full hip extension in internal and external rotation. I'm gonna swing my leg through, right? Getting into a lunge position. So as I get up, it's gonna be dynamic, but I also need to be in control. So my core has to be activated. So I'm controlling my core, controlling my trunk. I swing through, tuck the toe in, lats are on, everything is tight in the midsection. Then I'm gonna drive up into a lunge, holding, squeezing the adductors, squeezing the glute on the back side. I come back down controlled, tuck the toe in. As I go to swing through, I'm gonna internally rotate, right, this leg, and I'm gonna externally rotate the bottom leg. So I turn, and I control that sit back and hold position. We'll do that 2 times through. So again, we're back into the bear sit. We close the angle, pull the heels, shin box get up, punch, toes into the floor, come up, hold position, squeeze the glute, back down, tuck the toe, then slide, slow and controlled, back down. Again, 2 times through on each side. All right, so now that we enhanced our movement quality and we increased the stability and strength in the muscles, along with gaining mobility of the joint capsule, now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a basic movement that I do for warm-ups and also to increase that range of motion from abduction, external rotation, and then also activating the adductors. So for this one, it's gonna be a glute bridge, but we're gonna throw in a leg whip. So you're gonna go out to the side and then bring it back in. The goal here is to create proximal stiffness. Proximal stability will increase distal mobility. It's the same concept that Stuart McGill talks about. You guys don't know that guy, go ahead and check him out, Dr. Stuart McGill. A spine specialist that I take high regard to, and I also go into deep detail on how the benefits of what he does trickles over into combat sports on my other podcasts and on my YouTube channel. So make sure you check him out. But what we're gonna do today is the same concept that he utilizes when he's talking about increasing spine mechanics and also movement quality. I'm doing the same concept, but now I'm gonna place myself on the floor and I'm gonna get into a glute bridge or hip bridge position. I'm gonna activate my glutes on one side, and then I'm gonna be mobile on the hip that is free, that is not connected to the floor. So I'm in an open chain on the free side where I'm working on mobility, and I'm in a closed chain to increase the strength on that other side.